on the Senate Joint Economic Committee and was there every step of the way with the formulation and hopefully passage of this bill. So will this be enough, Senator? Do you feel good about what's about to be done?
Yeah, Brian, I think this is a very important bill. It's going to provide needed relief to struggling businesses and families and workers who are still out of work or not getting the hours they need, in no small part because Democratic governors and mayors keep locking down these businesses. We could have had this 4 months ago, Brian. Although the bill is still being finalized, we basically know what's in it because it's what Senate Republicans proposed in September that Nancy Pelosi refused to even consider. She said she'd rather have nothing than have the bill we proposed in September. So this bill is very similar. It's very disappointing to me that Nancy Pelosi blocked this aid for struggling businesses and families for 4 months, but I'm glad that we're going to get it across the finish line before Christmas.
So Senator Pat Toomey, who is a brilliant math mind, he's a big budget guy. He said, we're going to stop this from continuing this writing of deficit spending, even though this is no fault of the American people. What did Senator Pat Toomey hope to get, and what did he end up with?
Yeah, Pat Toomey was a real champion for not only Senate Republicans, but the American taxpayer this weekend. So the Democrats wanted to use Federal Reserve lending programs as a backdoor bailout for cities and states that have mismanaged their finances for decades. In March, with the CARES Act, we gave the Federal Reserve limited and temporary authority to help provide liquidity into the lending markets. That succeeded. The economy did not collapse in March and April, as many people feared. We wanted to revoke that authority so Joe Biden and the Democrats can't use it as a backdoor bailout for cities like New York City or Chicago or states like Illinois by providing ultra-low interest loans to those cities and states. We stopped them from bailing out the cities and the states through the front door, and this weekend, thanks to Senator Toomey and Senator McConnell, we stopped them from doing it through the back door of the Federal Reserve lending programs.
Right, and if they should do what everybody else is doing, allow their residents of the citizens of their state work their way out of this, rather than keep them locked down and give them checks. So I want to talk about something else that matters a lot to you, and that's critical race theory and what is going on in our nation's schools. Dalton faculty, which is an elite school right here in New York City, has signed an Antiracist Manifesto, which asks, among the things it's asked, they want one of their asks is asking students to pay the student debt out of black faculty. It goes on and on again, apologizing for things they had nothing to do with as it relates to race. And people at home are seeing everything that's in this proposal. You saw this coming.
Yeah, Brian, I saw the manifesto that the faculty there published. I got to say, I'd assume some parents are going to be asking for a refund for their tuition dollars, which is enough to buy a large car. But this anti-racist manifesto shows that this whole ideology is very Orwellian, when in fact it actually is treating students and their families based on their skin color. It's distinguishing between them and trying to treat them differently, when in fact the promise of America is that we treat everyone based on their individual character and their decisions, not as a member of a group, not based on their skin color. It's very disappointing to see such a prestigious school like the Dalton School have the faculty proposing this kind of manifesto. It would raise real questions, I think, among most parents about what they're being taught when they're not focusing on these things, when they're just talking about history or literature or what have you.
Senator, but this is not just elite Upper West Side high schools in New York City. What do you think is happening across the country in the curriculum that people are seeing? And is a lot of this based off the 1619 Project?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the case, Brian. You know, saw something similar out in Seattle public schools in the last week as well. And you're right that some schools are using the New York Times now debunked 1619 Project, an odious and obnoxious doctrine that this country is not founded on the basis of human equality, but rather on the basis of human bondage, when in fact everything about this country throughout our history has been struggling to achieve our founding promise of 1776, the true founding of this country, not 1619.
So what about people watching right now saying, what's the big deal? The kids learn all this different stuff. It's not going to affect the direction of the country.
Well, unfortunately, that's just not the case, Brian. I mean, children aren't born to be patriots. They aren't born to love the country into which they are born. They have to be taught that. They have to be taught why America is a special place, why they ought to love their country. And if we're not doing that in our schools, where is it going to happen? Look at public opinion polls. There's some troubling trends among people in their teens and 20s about their views of America. We need to teach our students that America is a country that is imperfect, of course. We're a country of human beings, but it is a country worth loving, worth defending, and worth fighting for.
And here's what the Dalton School said in response to the outrage many people are expressing. What is erroneously being referred to as faculty demands is in fact a thought starters. It is a set of thought starters created this summer by the subset of faculty and staff responding to Dalton's commitment to becoming an anti-racist institution. While Dalton prides itself as a leader in the important work and welcomes honest debate around how to meaningfully bring these principles to life, the school does not support all the language or actions it contains. Does that make you feel better?
If I was an administrator at Dalton School, or more likely a parent paying all that tuition, it might make me concerned that they've got so many faculties who have those thoughts to start with.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, the story says a lot of the parents are afraid to speak up, because that school means so much, it's got such a great reputation, could mean a lot for their student that graduates there. It could affect the type of college they go to. So they keep their mouth shut and they talk anonymously.
Oh, sure. That's very common, Brian. It's, you know, the so-called cancel culture where people are worried about losing their jobs or losing customers and facing a boycott, getting kicked out of their school or their college or what have you. And it's very harmful to civic debate. Now, most Americans don't subscribe to these radical views. We saw that in the ballot box last month. But there is a very strong suppressive streak in the academy, in schools, in the media, in Hollywood that doesn't want to have anyone questioning these radical ideas.
All right.
But that's exactly what we should do.
Good work this weekend, Senator. I know you worked through the night a couple of days. Appreciate you being with us this morning.
Thanks all. Merry Christmas.
All right, back at you. Pete?